Welcome to Season 2 of Strengths on Fire, the Great Strengths Debate.
Think you know Clifton's strengths? Think again.
This season, we're breaking down the biggest myths
Challenging conventional wisdom.
and showing you how strengths actually show up in leadership, life, and the messy middle of real work.
Sarah, you want to light these strengths on fire?
Let's light it up!
And our arsonists and Sarah Collins all back with us. Oh,
Hello, Mr. Bill Dipple. How you doing this morning?
I am absolutely great. It's been a beautiful morning. It's a great day. My golf game, super tight right now, playing well.
Wow. Well,
Right?
I've been watching the show Stick on Apple TV, so I feel like
watched
I
it
know a little bit
too.
about golf right now. More than normal, I care. More
I
than
watched
normal.
it too. My game
I'm not
is
finished
nowhere
yet, so
near.
no spoilers.
No, nothing. But my game is nowhere near the kids. I mean,
Of course
that game's
not.
pretty impressive.
He's a
so.
prodigy, okay?
I mean,
yeah.
it's a good show. I like
a great
him.
show.
I like Owen. I like the stars.
Yeah.
I like the people. So I'm proud of you for kind of stepping in out of your box a little
honey,
bit.
it's a show with a story. You give me a story, a parent, some children succeeding in the world. Like, there's nothing more I want. And Apple TV does a great job with their shows. You know, they are actually the only streamer service that is quality over quantity. And hallelujah, bless the Lord. Thank Jesus for them.
Yeah.
Because Netflix is just giving us crapola, crapola, crapola. Would you like some more crapola? We've got 75,000 crapolas. And it's like, geez.
Would you like another Love Island, please, on Netflix? Right? You're like,
I don't watch Love Island, but like it comes out every day. What?
Yeah.
No, I don't have time for that.
And then I see updates in social about, did you see what's in? I'm like,
Yes.
no, I did not. Nor do I. All right,
No.
strange, weird one. Are you watching Murderbot on Apple TV?
No, but I did see it because it has that guy from True Blood, and he is, I'm into it. So
Skarsgård, yeah.
yes,
yeah.
Skarsgård. So
And by the way, it's a good
I might-
comedy.
Is it?
It's actually a comedy.
No
So
way.
it really is, and
Okay.
it's constantly poking at a lot of things that I think you would laugh at.
I love it. I love laughing.
Yeah,
Give it to me. Skarsgård, Apple TV, like we're in.
Right. It's an under the radar comedy. Like you think Murderbot, there's no chance. That scares that scares me. But then you're in it and you're like, oh, they're really poking fun at some funny stuff here, including binging TV shows.
Oh,
So
well, love that for us.
just saying. Hey, I got a different question for you.
Hit me.
Right. Instead of Apple TV and how blessed we are to all have, our TV choices that we get, I am curious. Can you give me what you think a blind spot leaders are overlooking in themselves or others right now?
Man, you always hit me with these deep ones.
Well,
need to prep
because
me.
I know you're really good. And I
like a
admire
blind
your
spot
coaching.
leader or a leader that has a blind spot?
The blind spot that leaders are overlooking.
Okay, I thought you said the blind spot leaders. I was like, what the hell is a blind spot leader? No one is calling themselves that.
Got it. Yeah.
I think that there is some blind spots around coaching and like leaders not leaning in to getting their people coaching. Mm-hmm. And I think that they just think like, oh, we can do the on-the-job training and we can have their managers work with them and then they should be fine and they should succeed. And if they don't, then like that's their own fault. And
Yeah.
I think that there is opportunity when we have seen leaders bring in coaches like us or other coaches to work with their people, so much growth and development can happen. And I actually think it's a really low cost option because to get rid of someone who's not performing and then to post the job and look for a new candidate and hire a new candidate and onboard a new candidate is so expensive and time intensive. And if you would just spend a little bit of time and money, give that person an hour every couple of weeks to meet with their coach for that personal and professional growth and development, especially, of course, I'm biased towards strengths. I think there's so much to be done there. And I
Right.
just think either leaders don't think it works, they don't care, they don't know about it, but there are some who just do not invest in their people in that way, and they're missing an opportunity and honestly wasting money and resources by then burning and churning new people into the team.
Yeah. Wow. Well thought out. I like
Thank
it.
you. It wasn't well thought out. You got me the spot, but I'm glad it sounded well thought out.
See, I
What
don't
about
know.
you? What would you say?
I would say this question came up for me because I'm onboarding some people and groups and navigating that delicacy around who we involve. How is it all upper management and then directors, or do we do upper management directors and then roll it down to all the employees, or do we include them all right out of the gate? There's that ongoing, how many do we involve right away? And I think the blind spot I'm kind of running into is the cliquishness a bit of the C-suite or upper management, where, hey, we expect this, but here's what you're going to do elsewhere, and this is going to we're willing to do this part for us, but we're not going to do anything over here. And then that I think as coaches we all see that dichotomy sometimes, and there's a economic component to that. You can't ignore that. Of course, what we do requires time, and there's expense and money in doing that. So we obviously honor the ideas of we got to work around what your budget is. But the effectiveness of what we can do as coaches and how much we can get involved. I can get your directors to understand how to be coaches for their employees, but if they don't have a baseline of what to coach against, they can do some of it, but it becomes much, much harder. Whereas if I can give you a playbook at least to understand the basics, then let's do that. And maybe it's not every employee. Let's just do it for some key employees, which, by the way, then turns into all the employees going, why do they get it and I don't? So it ends up pushing. I know that. But I think it's just that blind spot is we only need to fix this overall issue of coaching in this one little spot.
Right.
Right. That's the way I feel about it. So.
Yeah. And then what I find in those situations is, as a coach, I feel handicapped because when I'm coaching a select group of people at the company and they say, oh, I've got this issue with this guy, but this guy hasn't done strengths. So now we have to think about, because if he's done strengths, we can strategically look at his assessment, look at your assessment, have a dynamic conversation about the best way to approach them and what we've seen from them based on their strengths and how do we have that. And if we don't have that, then we're sort of just guessing. Yeah. And so it feels like doing the work without the data component. And that's where I feel like I'm kind of leading the blind here, because we're just making assumptions, which honestly is what a lot of people do anyways. But that's what the great thing about Clifton Strengths is I feel like it gives us data and a tool to be more strategic and thoughtful about how we approach people, how we get people to do the things we need them to do, how we have conversations with them. And so if not everyone has done it, then we end up with some blind spots.
Yeah. And don't you love the argument? I mean, I've heard this one off and on. Well, that person's the problem. Yeah. And we don't want to invest in having them take it because we don't know, right? I get it both ways, which is either I would love to know X's themes. Can we get them to do it? And then let's start building that, which is a great one to hear. Or we don't even, such a problem, we don't want to invest in it right now. Or we may not.
I honestly have never heard that before. So shame on those people.
Right. And I'm trying to, maybe I'm dancing around it. It might be, we're not going to invest in it because they're such a problem. They're not going to be here that long. So investing in the money isn't there. And again, if you're not trying to help, right, then cut bait now. If you're not investing to make the change, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Right? And then let's make that change or not. So yeah.
Really interesting. Well, today we have a super interesting topic. Our topic that we're talking about today is, can your strengths make you a better parent and or partner? And we've got Dr. Kelly Dries with us today, and she is going to help us explore this topic to figure out, do these things really show up at home? And if they do, are they helping us or are they just making us big assholes? Kelly, come introduce yourself to the audience.
Kelly can't be an asshole based on all this blue. I love Dr. Kelly right now, or already just looking at this. So, Dr. Kelly, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thank you both for having me. And it's exciting to be here, and I will have to share something around. I could not join in the beginning of the conversation. I'm like, TV? I haven't looked at TV outside of Disney Plus in years. I don't know what any of these shows are, and I haven't opened Apple TV and I'll get there. My achiever and learner are a little bit of a dumpster fire for me in my parenting. But I'm Dr. Kelly Dries, leadership coach, Gallup certified strengths finder, facilitator, and founder of Dries Coaching and Consulting, which I actually started as a side hustle almost goodness 8 or 9 years ago. And what caused me to lean into it full time was actually becoming a parent and wanting greater flexibility for myself and wanting to be more present for my kids than I was. Unfortunately, at least for the first year of my daughter's life, I didn't have that experience. And so I made some changes around doing what I do best so that I could show up better as a parent. But my background spans K 12, higher ed, executive coaching. Um, the work I love most sits at the intersection of leadership and personal growth. And I'm really passionate about helping women leaders and working parents show up with confidence, clarity, authenticity. As a mom of two who are 4 and 2 years old, um, I
Good
have
years.
learned,
Oof,
I know,
oof.
good years, hard years, but I
No.
hear it just gets
Spoken
harder
from
in the
someone
ways.
who has not lived with
Oh,
a 4 and 2 year old. Bill.
Oh, easy, easy. I, I have grandchildren that span from newborn to 20, so
And
right.
I love you for that, but you have not lived with them, and that is a different experience. Okay.
Partial lived. So yes, so
yeah.
The
I agree.
mothers are laughing at you.
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
you're just jealous because I get to hand them back,
yeah,
right? Yeah,
exactly.
I
That's
know,
why you
I
can
know.
say, "Oh, good years." No, she is in the
Hard.
trenches.
Oh,
She is
oh,
being buried every day.
oh
Someone
no!
is,
I said good
they're
years.
literally digging her a grave
Did
today.
you not hear the sarcasm? 2 and 4 good years. Oh man, that's tough. That is hard
Yeah.
work. No, I agree. I agree with you on that way. So it's
Sorry,
okay.
Kelly, I totally interrupted you. I hijacked that.
No,
Sorry
oh
about
my
that.
God. You're good.
Sarah,
You're
keep your
good. I could.
jealousy at bay. Keep your jealousy at bay. Dr. Dries, go on. I'm riveted. Keep going.
Well, I think the real test of leadership is like, what do you do? And this was this week. I feel like this happens every week. Like, one of the toddlers is melting down, dinner is burning, and I have like a Zoom meeting in 5 minutes. And I'm like, okay, what
Hmm.
do I need to do? How do I make this work? So I think I bring my strengths to those moments very intentionally now. I think I was very reactive with my strengths when I first became a parent until I learned that, like, hey, this actually makes me a better parent when I can apply them. Right. And so I think I always recognize that my strengths made me really good at my job, at the work that I do. But I've come to see they also are what make me the kind of mom and partner I want to be.
Yeah.
Not perfect by any means, but present and always growing, always learning. So I like to think parenting has been kind of like a mirror and a master class. Right?
Mhm.
It's taught me to slow down, to check myself, reflect, to be present, keep growing. And my strengths have helped me do that in ways that I don't think I could have imagined when I first took Strengths Finder or when I first became a mom. And I'm kind of late to the mom game. Like, my sister is 2 years older than me and has a kid going off to college while I've got a child in diapers still. So I
Right.
waited to become a parent. I don't think I always wanted to become a parent. Um, I didn't see myself as one. So then to become one as an older adult, um, I mean, it's beautiful, but it's messy, and I don't think I was quite prepared for the messiness. But my strengths helped me for sure.
Yeah.
Can
Well,
you
oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Sarah.
can you tell the audience what your top 10 strengths are so they know?
Ooh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So achiever is number one, and that is like, I feel like if I could look at the like the coding that is gotta be higher, it comes out. I struggle with that achiever. So achiever, empathy, positivity, developer, learner, belief, individualization. My 8, 9, and 10 are, I don't know the order as well.
Okay.
But relator is in there, competition is in there, and what's my
We've got arranger
focus?
and
Arranger
input.
Arranger. Yeah.
and input. Yeah. So
Mhm.
yeah, I
Yeah.
love
Mhm.
it.
Excellent. So
Perfect.
you're
So
so blue.
Yes,
yes.
very blue.
Yes,
Well,
for those listening, that's the relationship building.
Yeah.
Kelly leads with a lot of relationship building themes, even though she is also heavily influenced by that purple, having that
Yeah.
high achiever up there.
And I like in your opening, Kelly, because this is the great strengths debate season for Strengths on Fire. You actually highlight the debate beautifully right at the beginning. I thought in the beginning these were so crippling to me. They were hard as being a parent, or as how they get it, and how to step into these strengths was getting in my way of parenting and not allowing me to be there. But now I hit the other side of it. And now that I've leaned into them and I understand what they mean about me, I can become more present, and actually I can turn them more into a better. So you're highlighting that ability of the great debate perfectly in that. I guess my first question I want to lean into is, which of those out of that top 10 do you think had the biggest pivot for you? Which one do you think was in your way when you started and then made that big turn for you that you now lean into and find is a better help in parenting?
Interesting question. I honestly think it was my achiever. And part of that is I don't rest well. I don't play well, right? So I want to be productive, and I think when my children were little, it was easy to be really productive. Like they could nap, I could listen to an audiobook and be cleaning the house and get all the things done, and everybody was happy. I wore my babies a lot, and it was like they were on me, they were getting that touch, and I could accomplish a lot of things on my task list. As they've gotten older, I can't do that. Even if I try to listen to an audiobook when I'm with my kids, I now get called out of like, "Mommy, are you paying attention to me? Like what's in your ear?
Yeah.
Can I have your earbud? I want to listen." And I'm like, "Oh." Like so I think the achiever for me is one that I struggled with. What has helped me is redefining what productive looks like. And as a parent, productivity looks different for me. The way that my partner and I work out our work schedules, I work in the mornings. He's second shift, so he works in the afternoon. So like I get every afternoon with my kids. And there are days if he has something going on that I might have them all day and I just clear my meetings or I don't take trainings that day. And those days are really hard for me when I don't have the morning to knock out tasks.
Yeah.
And so I have to mentally prepare myself. And a lot of that is putting things on my to-do list that for some people might seem silly, but help me. So make my kids feel loved and make my kids laugh is on my to-do list every single day. Spend 20 minutes with Asher, spend 20 minutes with Keegan on my to-do list every day so that I'm giving them that one-on-one attention. Be present is on my to-do list. Also sounds very silly, but I have to I have to work at that. I really,
Yeah.
really have to focus on being present. And then I think it's also putting my phone out of sight. I'm a fan of Good Inside, Dr. Becky Kennedy. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
member. Does it make sense with my achiever and learner that I thrive off of that, of how I can be a better parent?
Right.
I do her daily lessons, but I have to have my phone 2 doors away. So like I have
Mm-hmm.
to shut it in a purse in the other room and be far away so that I'm not tempted to go onto my email and quick respond or knock out a Todoist task. Like it needs to be out of sight.
Yep.
And that helps me. So I think it's reframing for me. It's not about getting things done, that being present can be the work.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that has helped me. But achiever I struggle with.
I think that's so powerful. I conduct a Strong as a Mother coaching group with mothers exploring how their strengths show up in motherhood. And I always talk about how it's not you as a parent, it's you as a mother, but of course there's like intersection there, right? And a lot of moms struggle with how it's this idea that you're saying about these strengths drive us to do certain things. And that can be hard then to be the present person at home, especially when you have those executing themes and those strategic thinking themes. And it's even funny for me to hear you have so much blue. Someone could assume by looking at this that you're like so lovey dovey and wonderful, which I'm sure you are. But if you're not thinking about, oh, she's got this achiever that's driving her to do, to do, to do, to do, to do, which then takes away this idea of like, what should she be doing? And in parenting and motherhood, we get this trap of the should. A good mom would, right? Kelly, a good mom would spend time with her kids. A good mom would do this, and a good mom would have a clean house, and a good mom would be getting her work done. And like, there's all of this good momming around us. And I think like the way these strengths show up at home, it just can look so different than how they show up at work. And I
Yeah.
think that is sometimes hard for people to reconcile. I have women go through in my group, we have literally a list of their top 10 strengths, and it says, how's this show up at work and how's this show up at home? And a lot of times I have a really hard time writing how it shows up at home. It's like hard to identify. And then when they do, they're like, what the heck? It's so different the way this comes out at home. But that's where I think the power is. And you're a coach, so you've done this work where one, it's the self awareness. What is driving this? You realize this achiever is driving me to do a to do list, but like that's not necessarily how I want to show up in motherhood. Like I want to be present,
Yeah.
right? Like I want to be in the moment. But my achiever is saying, do the dishes, do the laundry. But it's like, okay, I want a clean house, but do I want it more than I want connection? And like, where's the push and pull, right? And I think that's the first step for people. It's like, do a self-assessment to figure out how do they show up now. And then that's where the aiming comes in. Name it, claim it, aim it. Then you can aim it to say, like Kelly has, okay, here's my to-do list of what's actually important. And here's how I'm going to take these strengths and aim it at it. And achievers love our list. So you've made yourself a list of ways to be showing up as the type of mom that you want to be, which I think is really cool.
Yeah. And I was to emphasize that a bit, I would point that out when I'm dealing with clients. You successfully aimed achiever at yourself. Rather than aiming it at achieving the to-do list, what you did was you reconciled in your mind that achiever, what I need to achieve is have time with this child, have time with it, and be present in the. You made those choices, and rather than letting achiever run away with your time and take you away from that, you flipped it around and said, I'm going to aim it at myself and do these three, at least these three things that are mission critical in my day. Is that fair?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I like that frame of like aiming achiever at myself. I've also got really intentional with goals. So, I think about, we talk about as a family, like what are our goals? So both individually, I mean, my son is a little too young to do this yet, but my daughter is like, what are your goals for the summer? What are our goals as a family? What are the things we want to do this summer? Which I feel like the doing is a little more like my positivity, like let's bring fun to things. Let's create a list of fun things we can do this summer. So we have like summer bucket list on the fridge. That's a checklist that we check off when we do the things that we wanted to do this summer as a family. So I think it's like aiming those goals towards things as a family and for my children of things they want to do. So like that's how we learned that my daughter wanted to do horseback riding lessons. My partner and I were not horse people. I don't know why that's something that intrigued her, but it did. So we were like, okay, cool. Like let's sign her up and try it out and see how she likes it. And so I think having those intentional conversations around their goals has been really impactful. And had I not sat to try to aim my achiever as a parent, I don't think I would have thought of that. So I think that has helped me become a better parent too, is not just thinking about how I'm using them, but thinking more about how I want to use them, both in terms of how I show up for them and how I work on myself as a parent.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think what I hear in my group, and I'm curious to hear what you two would say to this, is no matter what people's strengths are, we talk about parenting. I think we get this notion of how we should be doing it, like I mentioned before, like a good mom, a good dad would do this. And then we feel like our strengths are working against us in that realm. You know, like for whatever reason. Like if you have a lot of blue and you're really like whatever, you're like, my house isn't clean enough. And if you're really like, achiever based and your house is really clean, you're like, I'm not spending enough time with my kids. I'm curious, like, what do you say to people of like, how do we decide what we should be doing and then think, how do our strengths help us do that? But like, what should we be doing? Like, what is good?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll touch on it from a non-achiever point of view. I actually don't have high achiever. It's so in the debate part for me, it's not even in my top 10. So for me, I'm an activator. So when you ask me what I should do, I do it all. Or I start everything.
Mhm.
The minute it hits, I'm going to take it on. I'm going to try it and see how it fits. But if I achieve it, no big deal, right? If I don't, it's okay. Which, by the way, in this debate today drives my other half berserk, right? Why, how come we started and didn't get it over the goal line, or what didn't we do? Got it. Understand that. And I'm not saying activator and achiever are complete opposites. We know that there are no true complete opposites within the Gallup themes. But when I coach and work with achiever people, I would say, and Dr. Dries, you brought this up correctly. In my estimation, it's the accuracy of goal setting. So, how often are we doing? I just want you to set 3 goals today or this week. Anything longer than that isn't a goal, it's a to-do list. So let's accurately set this from a parenting or let's say a spouse point of view. What are we going to do to try and achieve and make the achiever light up on just this? Because if I get you to try to achieve all of it, now you're burned out, you're oversold. That's where I think the achiever gets into trouble. I don't possess it. That's my belief in it. What, Dr. Dries, what do you think?
Yeah. Well, I keep thinking about the shoulding. I'm sorry, my head was still spinning on Sarah's comment of shoulding. Sorry, Phil.
Sure, of course.
Because I shit on myself constantly, and I am thinking through. I mean, last night I had this moment. There was a movie night in our local park that started. The movie started at 8:30. And I messaged a couple friends of mine to say, like, friends who have kids, to say, hey, do you want to join me? Like, my partner wasn't going to be able to be home in time. And I was like, oh, taking the kids to the park by myself that late. Uh, I could have tantrums. I could have both kids wanting me to hold them. I would love another adult to be there. And my 2 friends who have young kids the same age were like, oh, you're going to take them? It's late. Like, my kids will be in bed by 8 o'clock. And I was like, oh. So in my head, I'm like, oh, I shouldn't do this. Like, I'm a bad
Mhm.
parent for not having my young children in bed early. But I was like, no, like, I already talked to them about doing it. They wanted to do it. It's fun. My positivity was like, let's go to the movie. We've had it on the calendar. So we went. And I mean, they both stayed up. I kind of thought my 2-year-old would at least fall asleep at the movie. They were both up till like 11 o'clock. We got home. They were like, Mommy, we have to read books because we normally read books every night. So we still read 5 books. And then they went to bed and it was like 11:15. And I'm like, wow, I'm a really, right? Like I was shitting on myself. Like I'm a
Mhm.
bad mom. Like
I
I kept my
shouldn't
kids
have
up
done
really
that.
late. I
Yeah.
shouldn't have done that. Um, but part of me then has to repeat like, I'm a good parent and I made a decision based on my talents and I hope my kids enjoyed the night. Like they were
Yeah.
great until it was time to leave and they got a little like, upset, but even when they got home it was like, "Nope, let's do bedtime routine now." I'm like, "Okay." Yeah,
Yeah.
So
so
good.
I think it's the reminder that like everybody's going to do something differently and you have to kind
Mhm.
of just own you and own the decisions you make. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think it's hard not to shit on yourself. I shit on myself almost every day. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think it's just the nature, especially the way we live with the internet today. And there's so much comparison of how other parents are doing it. So not only do you have your friends saying this and your neighbors and your family, but then you have everyone on the internet doing it a certain way. And so I think it's easy to compare yourself. And I love to think about whenever I'm thinking about moments like you had, Kelly, last night and thinking, oh, am I a bad mom for doing this? I love thinking about the good stories people share where they'll be like, you know, I like, especially learning from older parents. And, it's like someone who has adult children, they'll say, like, I used to be exhausted on Fridays. So I would give my children literally snacks. Like, here's a snack plate, and it would be chips and slices of cheese and literally crap because I was tired. And I felt like such a bad mom. I felt like such a terrible parent that I gave them this crap. And now that they're adults, they're like, our favorite thing in the whole world was snack dinners. And I think of stories like that and I think, okay, what we think is right is not necessarily right, right? The things that make the memories. And so it's like, it's taking some of the pressure off
Yeah.
because this parenting thing is, and the spousing thing, it's all day, every day, constant. You're literally, you can't escape it. You're just always in it. And that's a lot to carry. And I think you feel in alignment when you live in a way that is in alignment with your strengths and you allow yourself, like you did, you said, okay, my positivity loves this. This is going to be so fun. We're going to go out there. is it the thing that I quote unquote should be doing? Right? Because there could be a point where your input and your learner would be like, I don't know, a lot of the research out there says your kids should be in bed, right? You could easily get yourself into the strategic mindset of it, but you like gave yourself permission, like, no, we have summer bingo. We want to do these things, and therefore we're going to make the consensus that positivity is leading the night. And she says, we're going to the movie. And it's going to be okay. No one's going to die. No one died. Everything is fine. And so achiever gets to click her off
Yeah.
of your bingo list, and
Yep.
positivity gets to say, yeah, we did that.
So good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I think it harkens back a bit to my point on goal setting. You set the goal, we're going to the movie.
Yeah.
You set the goal, my kids are going to have fun. Ooh, I'm shooting on myself because some people questioned the timing and how late and should we go and what. By the way, those other parents were shooting, well, wait a minute, should we go to the movie and go and takes right? The shooting goes all the way around.
Yeah.
And again, you had set the goal, the intention. You're leading into your positivity and your developer with children. Let's expand the range a little bit. That was the goal you set. That's the goal you achieved, right? I absolutely love the idea that you're leaning into your achiever to say, we've set this, we've set these goals, we're going to meet them, and I'm going to get us there, even if I question myself in that component, even if there's a time when I'm going to maybe have a moment to think about it and worry about, am I being the right parent?
I have a question for you. I have been thinking, I have positivity at number one. I have a 7-year-old boy and twin daughters that are 5, as a reminder to everybody. And as I think about it, I sometimes find it hard to see my positivity show up in my house. And I tell my clients all the time that positivity is a relationship building theme. And so it shows up when you are in building relationships with people. And I just find like if I am alone, I don't have a lot of that positivity. Like I get sad and lonely and depressed just like everybody else. And the longer I'm alone, the more I get that way. And like I have to get out into the world to turn the positivity on. Like it's like a magic switch. I'm like, I'm feeling so lonely. And then I walk into a group of people and I'm like, okay, we're back. And sometimes that just doesn't turn on with my children. I have noticed the older they get, the little bit more it can, but with when they've been so little, they're just so a part of me and in our house that it wasn't like I was building that relationship. And so for me, I've had to now be really intentional of like, I want them to see that side of me. I am so fun. I am a light, like I'm just like a light in this world. And so I was like, okay, how can I make sure I use it? And so now what I do is every day I wake them up and I want to be the one to wake them up. And I think I'm going up there with my positivity. Like no one's drained my battery yet. And I sing to them and I cuddle with them and I tell them I love them so much and you're going to have such a good day. And like I bring to each of them positivity every morning because I have the bandwidth for it. And I want them to see that. But it was hard for me to get that to show up without that intentionality. I am just curious, do you have that experience or am I on an island out here just being a total curmudgeon with my family?
No, not at all. Not at all. I feel like I have to work at it. And I also feel like that's your positivity and your woo. Cause like that, I could
Mm,
not do that. Like that is not how my positivity shows up in terms of
yeah.
like I actually feel like if I'm around too many people with my positivity, it drains me. Like my positivity
Hmm.
shines one on one. My positivity shines with a task list. Right?
Yeah.
So even this morning, I thought my partner is going to be waking up potentially to a dumpster fire. They're going to wake up and I'm not there. And they normally like to know that in advance. And I didn't really think through that with the late night movie that they wouldn't be awake when I woke up and left the house. So I was like, what can I do quick that would be fun? And normally, if I'm not going to be there in the morning, if I like have a work trip or I'm out of town, I will leave them goodie bags with little love notes. And I was like, they're going to look for that. And I didn't do anything because I didn't plan for this. So I quickly, on a sticky note, wrote them both little love notes where they do breakfast in the morning in our little breakfast nook.
Hmm.
And then I wrote love messages on a stack of sticky notes and hid them in the playroom and in their bedroom and just said, like, let daddy know. I think I put, like, Asher, have daddy read this. And then I said, like, I hid notes, like, hopefully you can drink your coffee in peace. There's things for them to go find around the house. And some of them were like little prizes of, like, I'll go buy you a cake pop later. Bribery. But I
Love
think my
bribery.
positivity And I will tell you, I've had to work at this. We do the elf, right? The Christmas time elf.
Hmm.
And I know I've seen your posts, Sarah. I know you do them too. They love waking up in December, you know?
Yeah.
And the first year I did it, I was like, this is so magical and so beautiful that every morning they wake up so excited to find the elf. And then January 1st came or whatever, December 26th, when the elf leaves, it was like, womp womp. Like, I'm not excited
Oh.
anymore. There's no elf. Right. And so I thought, like, how do I bring that magic every day? And a
Mm.
lot of that is my achiever and positivity dynamic, like thinking through, making a plan. What am I going to do to make today fun? And sometimes it's like, ChatGPT, give me a list of some fun things I can do that I haven't done with the kids. That might be a new thing for them, like a fun scavenger hunt or, an obstacle course I could set up the night before that they get to do in the morning, but something that shows I'm thinking of them and they wake up like, ooh, this is exciting. I get to do this new thing today. And so I think I've had to aim it for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've had to be really intentional about it, but I think it shows up with that achiever of like, plan out
Yeah.
my fun. I'm not a naturally fun. I have to plan it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I would, from a parenting point of view, I would say having developer like you do very, very high, it's number two for me, and having all the blue up so high that I have. When I first stepped into the parenting role for our children, I married into it, and so that was a different role. But then again, as a child, my mom was married multiple times, so there were a lot of guys that stepped into that role. So I kind of had a playbook for it, and I literally stepped into our marriage, and I thought, all these children need is love. That's all any child ever needs. I was wrong. They needed direction. They needed right. And two of the two boys are older, and they were pretty much gone and out. But we had the daughter, and the daughter, to say was a handful would be an understatement. Was definitely a wild child.
And she was a teen when you stepped in,
She
right?
was, yeah. I think I stepped in,
Yeah.
and Renee and I made a very conscious choice not to be together until she was 18 or so. But even though we had started dating when she was about 14 or 15, so we were trying to be very, honest with her, not live together. But Mandy did come in and out of our lives pretty frequently, and at one point, my developer fell off the plate and all of my blue because Mandy was breaking a rule at the house for a dinner. And so I threw her out, and man, talk about hurting my developer and talk about crushing the blue in me, and I put her on the front porch and said, when you're ready to actually follow the rules, you can come back in. And she said, I will never come in this house ever again for the rest of my life. I'm like, well, that's a choice. That's a choice you can make. And I closed the door. I walked in, and the other kids were here. And I just said, well, I just threw Mandy out, just so we're all aware. And, Renee walked outside and had a talk. And Mandy ended up going with a friend and taking off and doing some stuff. And the drama wasn't catastrophic. And about 3 weeks later, Mandy called Renee, and she was here at the house and said, I need $20 to go do something. And Renee said, swing on by the house. We got about 8 people here at a party, and just come on in. And Mandy said, no, I won't. And Renee said, okay, well, it's $20. If you need it, you got to get over to the house, say hi to Bill when you get in. And yeah. And apparently that horrible event was worth about $20 because she showed up, walked in, gave me a big hug, and ended up getting her money for the day. And I bring this up because now, as an older parent, and Sarah, you brought up, the older parents and maybe the wisdom or maybe the experience you've had. Mandy will tell everybody, you are my dad. You are the person that meant so much to me in that time because you showed me boundaries and caring. Mm-hmm. And it took the developer to get shut off in the debate side for me when we're talking about what it is to be a good parent or partner. It took me to lean into some of the other things that I might do to activate on this is a rule and you're not doing it. And maybe you just don't need a minute more of love. Maybe
Yeah.
it isn't just caring and gently asking you. Maybe there is a moment where I needed to act. And I really look at that moment as being the thing that turned a big part of our relationship around. Mm-hmm. And I still talk to her frequently. We she's the one of the three kids. She's the one that calls me on Father's Day every year and makes sure that, I'm well taken care of and, loving and all. So again, I just saying from my point of view on the parenting debate side of this, I think sometimes shutting down that blue and stepping into the purple that you have and sometimes the influencing that I have, which is number two for me, critical, necessary, and while we think it's going to be devastating, means the world to them maybe in the end, or makes us better parents when we think I'm shitting myself really hard right now. Should I have done this? So thoughts? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it's interesting to think about how one of our strengths, if we lean too heavily into it, can kind of drain us in parenting. I think about that a lot in work. I don't know how much I've thought about that in my parenting, but it's true. Um, and I'm there. I think I can get too much into my achiever, but I sometimes can get a little too much into my empathy. Feel like I have to find the
Mm-hmm.
balance between the two of those. Because empathy is actually where I feel like I can shine. Um, like, give me a tantrum, and I will blow you away with my ability to handle a tantrum. And not shut it down, but like sit with it and let it
Yeah.
happen and let them feel it out. And I will never forget the first time I got to put those skills to the test. Like my first epic tantrum from my daughter. Um, she was 2, had just turned 2, and we probably had I think my son was maybe 3 weeks old. Like we had recently brought him home. She was in the bath and she didn't want to get out of the bath. And she started freaking out in the bathtub
Mm-hmm.
and like a full on epic tantrum. And my husband looked at me and was like, I don't know what to do, right? Like I'm not
Right.
equipped for this. Like, make it stop, Kelly, make it stop. And I was like,
Yeah.
he
Make
can't
it
make it
stop.
stop. Like she's got to get this out. And internally I'm like, this is because she's 2. Her world
Mm-hmm.
just got totally disrupted and she has no language to share that. Like we just brought home another child. She's getting less of our attention and it's probably a bit of jealousy, it's probably a bit of
Oh
anger,
yeah.
frustration, sadness, loneliness. Who knows what all was going through that little body of hers, but she needed to let it out. So,
Mm-hmm.
I repeated the mantra and stages I'd learned. I guess using a little bit of my learner of like how do I deal with a tantrum appropriately, but I used that to validate her, to say I was there. And now I feel like I thrive when my kids are having a hard time, which sounds really, I don't
Yeah.
know, it
No.
doesn't sound the greatest, but I feel like I can turn on that empathy and really support them. That I'm hopeful will set them up for success later in life. And just validate those feelings. And I always find it ironic that I have empathy in my top 5 because I was someone that was taught not to feel as a child, right? Like,
Mm,
so, like the athletes don't cry. Like if you're crying, go in your room until you can come out and be happy. So like the fact that that's a talent I have sometimes fascinates me. It was like, was it born out of a need I had to process, or was it just there and it was shut down that I leaned into it further? I don't know. But I feel like I'm hoping I'm setting them up to be able to have a high emotional intelligence as they're older. And I find myself being able to like turn on, I'm a good parent when I can respond to a tantrum. And sometimes, like all of us, we don't always feel like a good parent or a good partner, but give me someone that's
mhm.
having a hard time and I feel like I can be good at helping.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
I love you recognizing that, and it makes me think about like the way you articulate that empathy showing up in hard times with your kids. I think that's wonderful, and I think that's the thing. If you're a parent, you need to recognize there are certain things in parenting that you're going to hit your stride with.
Yeah.
And the thing about being a parent is your kids are different ages all the time. So when they're babies versus toddlers versus little kids versus a little bit bigger kids, like they're different the way they show up and what they need from you. So there probably are going to be times where you feel like, oh man, I got this parenting thing on lockdown. And like I would say, if you feel like you haven't hit it yet, it's still coming. Like you might be an awesome teenage parent, right? Like I had a woman in Strong as a Mother a few years ago who had tons of greens and purples, right? She's a lawyer and she had babies. And she was like, I'm a terrible parent. I am not. Like, I'm not lovey dovey. I'm not huggy. I'm not relationship driven. What the hell am I supposed to be doing with these kids? And we really had to work on leaning into her strengths to do what she could and taking that on, and also realizing that maybe those baby stages, those toddler stages, those are just going to be harder years for her. Because the thing I think about with strengths is at work, especially if we're in like a good work environment, we can put people in the right seat on the bus to do things that really use their strengths, right? We get people to, yeah, we want to put you in this role where you get to use your strengths and you can thrive, and we're going to put this other person in this role where they're using their strengths, and we can shuffle people. As a parent, as a spouse, you got to do everything, whether you're good at it or not, whether you like it or not. There is
No,
really no like
no
other seats
shuffling.
on the bus or
Right.
shuffling,
Yeah.
right?
No shuffling.
Yeah.
And
No.
so it's like, okay, what for the season that we're in? And then it gets hard. You complicate this because then you have a kid who's 2 and 4, or some people out there who have a baby and an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old and a 20-year-old. Okay, now you're literally spread out throughout the spectrum. You have to interact with each of these kids at different points in their development, and your strengths then have to try to meet them where they're at. Like, that is exhausting. Of course. Are you tired? Of course you're tired. Yes. And so I think, though, it's like giving yourself the grace. One, do the work. Look at your strengths in your parenting and see what's showing up how. Think about what your kids need. Think about where do you feel in stride. And then I think also in the places you do not feel like you're thriving, like if you're in a season where your kids are doing stuff that is so hard for you, seriously lean on your resources. We were not meant to do this alone. We were supposed to do this in a village. Brandon Miller, who was on our podcast about competition, he actually has a strengths-based parenting book he wrote with his wife. And they actually have this strategy called the 4 S's. And I use this with clients in my Strongest Mother group all the time. It's like swap it out, sync up, support. I can't remember the last one. But we talk about that. Like, who can you pay to do this? Who can you lean on a neighbor? Can you sync up with a spouse or your parents? But it's like, do not think that you should be doing this alone, because there are going to be pieces of it that are really freaking hard for you because you only have so many talents in your skill set. And if you lean into what you're naturally good at and you do the best you can and you think strategically about how I do these things for me, you're going to be set up better. You're going to show up better for your kids. And also, your kids need the influence of other people anyways. So make it easier on yourself. Don't be a martyr and think you have to do all of this, because there's just going to be certain stuff that's harder for you. I think for those really strategic people, they're probably awesome at like thinking through the Christmas list and who's going to get what and how much money are we going to spend on it and the fairness of it, or even the activities, what activities are we going to do when, and the schedule. And I think those people thrive at that. I suck at that. At Christmas time, I probably got a kid who's getting $60 worth of stuff and one who's getting $600 worth of stuff, because I got an activator. I'm just out here buying willy-nilly. And so then I get like, oh, this isn't fair. And I'm like, oh, shit, it's not fair. A strategic mom would never do that. She would be on it. So it's like, just embrace what you have, lean on other people, and give yourself grace. And I think it's like really cool, Kelly, the way you can show up with that empathy in those tantrums and recognize that, like, what a gift you have given your children.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's true. Like Bill's point too. I think, right? Like I have to reframe because my partner has empathy 34, like 34. So feelings for him. That's why he looked at me deer in the headlights with the tantrum of like, I don't even know. I don't know what to do with this, right? And so sometimes I can feel like I'm too soft. Right. And I have to
Yeah.
reframe for him sometimes. Like, it doesn't mean I'm soft. It means I'm tuning in. But to Bill's point, like, I can't tune in all the time because that's draining. Like, I need boundaries around my empathy. And I think that's true of every talent, right? Like, I mean, balcony basement, right? You got to be aware of when you're dipping into something that's going to hinder you. And for me, I've had to set boundaries. Like, I can't be all about the feelings all the time or be the only one that's handling that, or I will drain that part of me real quick.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I think those boundaries are so important.
Yeah, I get so drained knowing that my woo and my developer and my blue, I've mentioned it before, sometimes I don't want to go to a party because I know what it's going to take to meet everybody in that party. And then I leave and I had a great time and I met a bunch of wonderful people. But you're absolutely right. When I think of the energy involved in doing it, that's when I get demotivated, where I'm now in the basement rather than leaning into the strength side of it. But I do want to lead you into, we're going to jump into our dumpster fire component of today.
Not yet, we're not.
Oh, no, 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 not yet.
I
Easy.
rearranged our schedule. So now I'm going to
Good.
go
But
to our
hold on.
LinkedIn poll.
Well, hold on, because I want to ask you before, because we've talked parenting, all three of us, right? And I was going to link that this might lean into the dumpster or it might head that direction. You let us know. But I want to ask you, we've mentioned your partner a couple of times. And we had a funny comment right in the beginning in our pre-show that you received Christmas cards that say Dr. Kelly Dries and Mr. and how funny that moment can be. So all three of us have talked about the parenting strengths we use. Talk for a moment about the relationship side for the partner of the debate
Yeah.
part of this question. What strength do you think leans into that with you?
You know, I feel like it's fascinating to me, right? I think having your partner take strengths is a beautiful thing. And you'll know in my top 10, there are no influencing talents, with the exception of competition. I has been higher in other versions, and it's number 11 for me. I resonate with competition a little more than some of the others at the bottom, but that's my only influencing talent. The rest are like way at the bottom. He leads with influencing, self assurance, significance. What makes us work is we both have achiever at number one. So I can
Mm,
look back to past relationships of mine and know that they've failed because that person did not have achiever, did not have this desire to constantly be productive and and I don't want to say busy, but like always be doing something. Like, and I love that about my partnering relationship is like we are busy together, and we do a lot of things together that are productive for our goals as a couple, as a family. Um, but I think we have opposite strengths. So adaptability is one of his top talents, um, which, oh my gosh, sets us up as a family better, sets us up in our relationship better. So I think, I guess maybe Bill, I'll ask you to repeat your question, as I'm not sure if I'm answering it, but I think knowing what our strengths are as a couple has helped us. And also, I mean, they say opposites attract. It's very true for us in terms of we have some core foundational similarities, but empathy for him is low. It's high for me. Adaptability is right there at the top for him, and it's low for me. And I think those two traits in both of us help us be better in terms of how we parent our children and how we show up for each other. Um,
No,
I don't know
I
if
think
I'm
that
answering your
answers
question or not.
no, that answers the question really well as far as and I find so frequently opposites do attract, but that can also be the thing that drives us nuts about our partner later
Oh
on in
yeah,
life.
for sure. Yeah, yeah,
Where we have those gritty moments. And
yeah,
you're right, adaptability's down. It's 29 for you and it's super high
yeah,
for him. So he wants to pivot and change and make things happen. And
yeah.
you're more like, no, we're staying the
And
course.
yeah,
We're going to,
yeah,
yeah, right.
yeah,
And so, no, I think you're absolutely correct. Just understanding each other's strengths and letting each
yeah,
other breathe in those moments when we don't agree on maybe the parenting theme or the friends that we're going to surround ourselves with or the vacation we're going to take, and let him lean into that adaptability and let you run the
yeah,
pivot in the course and make sure that you're moving in the right direction. But knowing that about each other and living it, I think
yeah,
that's exactly right. And from my point of view on the debate side, that's the strength of doing this. Although I think from a debate point of view, they do get in each other. We do butt heads, right? We
yeah.
will have
Oh
those
yeah,
moments where that is going to happen. But I do think strengths help us overcome that as well. If we know what the strength is that
yeah,
we're butting heads with and we know why we're doing it, and we have the language of strengths to be able to now say, gosh darn it, your empathy is driving me nuts today, right? I think
yeah,
that's powerful. So I do think you're
yeah.
absolutely answering it. Yeah.
I think that
So
knowledge of it is critical in the moments when you're feeling the heat. Right. I think when my partner and I first started dating, I used to love it because he was like, "Whatever, like you want sushi again for the 10th time this month? Like, cool, I'm down. Let's get sushi." And I was like, "Cool, I get to always decide where we go to eat." And then sometimes now when I'm like, I've had a long day of deciding with clients and like my meetings and my schedule and then parenting, and then it's like when I ask, what do you want to do for dinner? And it's like, well, I don't care, whatever you want to do. And I'm like, no, like make a decision. I'm asking you to make a decision today. Please help me. I at least can know like this is his adaptability
Right.
and he really doesn't care and he's fine with whatever. But sometimes, yeah, I feel like having that awareness, at least to know like he isn't trying to make me make more decisions or make it harder. It's just he really doesn't care. And that's a beautiful
Yeah.
Right.
thing sometimes of like we can do anything and he'll be happy.
Yeah,
Um,
great example.
yeah,
Really, really good
yeah.
example. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. And I think you're right. I think when we have our spouses take this, it gives us an insight to them. And I think people always love it. You know, even if you don't use it that much, just having that knowledge to be able to go back to, even when you, if it's just when you're frustrated, to go back and look and be like, where's this maybe coming from? And I love, Kelly, how you point out like it's sometimes it's the things that you fell in love with or the things that end up driving you crazy.
Right? Funny how that works.
Absolutely. And so our poll for today was, have you applied your Clifton strengths at home? We had 6% say yes in parenting, 19% say yes in partnership, 68% said yes in both, and 6% said, wait, you can do that? So it looks like majority of people are doing it both in their partnership and in parenting. We had Tyann Osborne, who's been a guest on this podcast before,
Ty.
comment that she said, my youngest daughter was a complete enigma to me. Once I discovered she was off the chart high in discipline, which is really low for me, I saw her in a different light. Our relationship got a lot better after that. And what I love about this, and we didn't even have the chance to touch on it, we could literally have a whole podcast about just this topic, I think. We didn't even talk about the strengths of your children, which, of course, for those of you listening, you don't really give the Clifton Strengths Assessment to people until they're at least, I would say, 14, 18, somewhere in there. I've had people. There is a Strengths Explorer assessment that is for younger people that you can give. It is similar, it is the same basis and similar research as the Clifton Strengths Assessment. There's just less words. It's a little bit more simplistic for younger people. So you could give them Strengths Explorer. You could, as soon as they can read and understand it, you know, give them the full Clifton Strengths Assessment. And as, of course, then they become adults, you can use this. And I think it's really powerful for families to use as their kids get older to think about, okay, now not only do I have my own strengths to think of, but I have this person, my children's strengths to think of, and even how our whole family operates with that. Any
Yeah.
thoughts about that, guys?
Well, I like the Strengths Explorer because it doesn't crush the children. It only gives you your top five, I believe, and it doesn't show the bottom. And it says you're great at these things, and it doesn't allow them to dwell on, man, I don't do any of these. Which, in the 34 report, as coaches, we all know adults tend to go to the bottom of the report and go, "You're right, I don't have that, and I don't have that, and that's a downside, and that's a downside." And using Explorer with some of the student groups we've done, I love that it just doesn't let them get there. It just highlights what you're doing great, right?
Yeah.
And keep doing these things. And as Gallup research will show you, once you're out of the Strengths Explorer age, it's going to change anyway because you're in development.
Yep.
So then let's look at taking it again. And I appreciate that component. And thanks for bringing up the Explorer because it does help from a parent, I think, point of view for the grandkids that I've worked with. I was in an event last night with 4 of my grandchildren in wildly different age groups, and one of them can't stand me. I mean, I say that jokingly, but they'll all hug me and love me and kiss me, and then one of them is like, "No, just no, I do not," you know. And then I'm like, "Can I just, Olive? Can I just get like Nux for a second?" And like, no, and I have to deal with that, right? I have to let I know the grandkids don't understand the relationship side of it or the other end, right? But when we start administering and understanding what they're great at, it helps us kind of overcome those little blips on my end. So
Yeah.
that's my take on Explorer and where it helps me out from a parenting end.
Yeah.
Dr. Dries, what do you think?
Yeah, I read strengths-based parenting before my kids. I think when my daughter was in my womb, I was reading that amongst a bunch of books, and so my kids are too young to take the Explorer yet. But I have started strength spotting, especially with my daughter, and
Mhm.
I love doing that, watching for moments where she's in the zone where I can be like, is this a glimpse of a talent that's coming out? And I'll give you an example. A couple weeks ago, my sister bought her this like costume jewelry ring set. And I noticed she wasn't out in our playroom playing, and I went to look for her, and she was in her bedroom, kind of like standing above her bed, and she had all this stuff, all jewelry all over the bed, and then had some containers. And I just watched her for a while, probably about 15 minutes. I mean, I took a video because I'm like, she is in the zone, like talking to herself, like just focused. And eventually she kind of broke, realized I was there, and I was like, "What are you doing, sweetie?" And she's like, "Oh, come here, come here. I want to show you." She was like, "I'm organizing my rings." She's like, "So here are all the rings that have animals on them. Here's all the rings that have flowers on them. Here's all of the ones that are glittery, and then here are the rings that like don't fit into any of the other boxes." And I was like, "Wow, that is really cool." And
Mm-hmm.
that's not me, right? I know I have a ranger high, but like that's not how my ranger shows up. So I'm like, is this a glimpse of her ranger or some kind of executing talent where she's like, I need to organize this into the places it fits. And it was just a beautiful moment of starting to see moments for her where she is in the zone, focused, and just happy and joyful. And it was cool to see, and I'm excited to continue on my parenting journey to start to spot those moments.
Yeah.
Um, to see what talents they have and then help them shine more in them, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like it's fun to start to strength spot.
There's a great book called The Strength Switch, which is actually a parenting book. I don't know if you've read that one too. It doesn't talk specifically Clifton strengths, but it does talk about strengths. And you can draw similarities. And it's all about how, as parents, we really should be spotting our children's strengths, just like you're doing, Kelly, and saying it. Because what so often happens is your kid will leave their bike in the yard, and you'll come outside and you'll be like, "Why didn't you put your bike in the garage? You need to put your bike in the garage." We're always correcting. We're always coming at them from a deficit mindset of what they didn't do. And what we really should be doing is encouraging them on what they did do. So the bike's in the garage, but you can say, "Hey, you put your helmet in the garage. Awesome. High five. What about your bike?" And they are going to be so much more receptive and so much more listening to us when we are spotting what they do right. And we start, like you're saying, like noticing the good and
Yeah.
saying it out loud. And so The Strength Switch is a great book that I would highly recommend. Another take on this that I think is interesting that came in from LinkedIn is Angeline Soon said, "This was a sore spot for me with my relationship with my dad until I understood his top five. Whenever we'd plan a trip, he'll want to invite more people. And for me, I used to think I'm not good enough, that you always have to pull in others to make the trip better. But since learning that he has includer at number three and mine is 33, I now talk myself off the ledge and understand this isn't about me. It's about him wanting to stretch the circle wider." Wow, what a great
Wow.
example of how knowing someone's strengths, even your own parents. Now we're giving like our moms and dads, right? Like, as Dr. Becky would say, we got to heal our own trauma over here.
We do. Wow.
And so
Wow.
it's like, what if we gave it to our parents? This is something I have not done yet. But now I'm like, oh, maybe Jackie and Fred, my mom and dad, need to be taking this assessment. And maybe that would help us give. I always talk about the second story. What's the second story on what's really happening, why they did, and why they continue to do the things that they do?
Yeah. I love that. How are
Yeah.
we talking? Like, how can I talk myself off the ledge? Um, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, what are the stories we're telling ourselves? And a lot of times I haven't had my parents take it, but I can guess a few things that they have that I don't, that have caused problems for me, at least in terms of the story I'm telling myself about what it means about me. So I
Yeah.
love that. Whoever shared that, I love that.
Yeah, that
How can
was
I
really
talk myself
powerful.
off the ledge? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Now,
oh, go ahead, Sarah.
I was just going to say, now, Kelly, do you want to share with us some moments when your strengths have gotten you into a dumpster fire? And also when they're firework moments, when you feel like you're shooting on all cylinders. And because of our topic today, if you can talk about in parenting or in partnership, I think that would be awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I think there is a trap with my achiever and learner in all aspects of my life. Parenting, though, for sure. Um, I have mentioned I read a lot. I read a book a week. I've done it as long as I can remember. And before my kids were born, I read the book How to Raise a Reader, because reading for me is like, I mean, it's my escape. It's where I learn. It's like I don't watch TV. I'll read a book. Even if my partner wants to watch TV, I will sit next to him and I will read on my Kindle. And so books are everywhere in our house because that was one of the lessons of How to Raise a Reader is like put books everywhere from like as young. So we have like book boxes, we have bookshelves. Their rooms have books on the shelves and on like an extra thing and on the wall. And we go to the library every week. And part of me, I think my relationship with my own mother, we read books together. We belong to book of the month club. And then every month we get a book to read and then we swap them. And that's kind of like how we talk is through books. And so like, I really want my kids to be readers, but I think my achiever and learner is potentially pushing it a little too hard. In terms of like, on my to-do list every day is like make sure that the kids got 5 books a day. And like if we don't do that, the next day I try to make up for it, right? It's I have to be aware. Like that is a dumpster fire for me. And I'm getting to the actual maybe like a fire moment lately. I signed both kids up for our library has a program of like read 1,000 books before kindergarten. And my daughter's really close, but I'm realizing that I'm the one pushing that, not her, right? Like I'm like, we gotta go, we gotta log this, we gotta like, you're almost there, how exciting! And I'm seeing her reaction is like she's not as excited as I am about this, and so I feel like I am gonna continuously, as a parent, have to rein in that achiever and learner for me, so that I don't put that on them. Like I don't want my goals to be what's driving them, right? And I think, yeah, the moment last week at the library where she got her 800 little plaque because she just hit 800 books, and like she didn't care at all. She threw it on the floor. She like literally dropped it, and the librarian was like, "Oh," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like this is my award, and like this isn't. Yeah, we gotta. Yeah, I gotta rein this in a little bit." It's like she doesn't care if she hits 1,000 books at all. So what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Logging her books every day. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's my dumpster fire currently, reining those in.
Yeah. But the self-awareness on it, I think, is so powerful because I love your story about the books because I think you hear it a lot with sports where people are like, oh, I pushed them to play softball because I played softball and I wanted to be good at it and they didn't care. So I love like a different example from a different reign of life, but still the same thing, like pushing our own priorities. But I think it's that self-awareness that will save you, right?
Yeah, I thought the self-awareness was her firework moment. I thought she was tying them together right there. Where the firework was, I realized what I'm doing, and man, why am I pushing this so hard? Because that would be a legitimate firework moment where I realized, what am I doing? She threw it on the floor. I picked it up. I'm going to frame it and put it in my, I don't know. So, or give us another firework moment, something where you think you really shined and sparkled using these themes.
Another example of a firework moment. I mean, I think it's maybe the dynamic where my positivity can come in. Right. So I am not too strict with bedtime if we have something fun going on. Obviously, case in point, I've talked about the movie night last night. But on a normal night, we have a pretty well set routine. And like when I give the 5-minute warning from Alexa, like we go in and like brush teeth, whatever, wash faces. We read 5 books plus. I will never turn down a book. So sometimes we read more than 5 if they want to keep reading books.
Honestly, bless your soul. Wow.
I actually really enjoy children's books. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I find the lessons in them to be quite beautiful.
I agree. I like children's books too, but by the end of the night, I'm like, girl, you're getting one book if you're lucky, and don't make it a long one because I'm
Yeah.
tired.
I
So
need
the
to
fact
up.
that you have the patience to do 5, like that is extremely impressive.
We need to up
And
our
they'll call me on
children's
it
book
too now.
game.
I gotta
We need to up
gotta
our
get to
children's
5.
book game
Oh.
here at the house because we have the same ones. And at some point, I'm just like, I need to swap around. We need to
Yeah,
get some new ones in
for
here for the
variety.
grandkids when they're over. So yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. Go ahead, Kelly.
No, you're good. My son this week, one of the nights, was like really not ready for bed yet. And he wanted to play Pillow Pirates, where you like, it's like a pillow fighting for a 2-year-old. And he really wanted to do it. And inside, I was looking at the clock. I knew I had my own to-do list to get to that evening of a couple things I needed to get done for a client. I wanted to be able to like read before I went to bed. And so in my head, I'm like, no, like we don't have time for this. Let's go. Like, let's go. It's bedtime. It's time. It's time to lay down and at least read books, right? Because I know that takes time. um, and I had to check myself. And I think my firework moment is that like I let myself lean into my positivity for a minute and was like, all right, he's 2. I am going to have a harder time if I fight this. Let's play for a minute. It's really what he's hungry for in this moment. We played Pillow Pirates for a minute, and then I was like, all right, it's time now. And then, boom, like laid down, we read books. They both fell asleep in the middle of one of them, and like that was it. So I think firework moment is when I feel myself getting tapped with one of my talents that I'm leaning into and leaning into a different one, I think is when I feel like I can really shine. And that's a fresh example for me that feels like that was hard for me. But if I
Yeah.
just took a second to breathe, I'm reading the 5 second rule by Mel Robbins right now. And I think it was just like for 5 seconds, let me respond differently. And I
Yeah.
did. And then it worked really well in that moment.
Yeah, that's
Great
really great.
example. Yeah,
Excellent
I absolutely
example.
agree. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, Dr. Dries, thank you very much for coming on our show today. We really appreciate having you and your insights, especially around parenting and how your husband feels when those Christmas cards arrive. I understand the toughness in that label. So, but your insights and all of your thoughts around parenting and where your moments shine and sometimes where they might get in your way, really insightful today. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a fun exercise to reflect on how my strengths show up as a parent. And honestly, in this stage of parenting, I will say I I can sometimes focus so much on how my strengths show up as a parent that I'm not focusing as much on how my strengths show up as a partner. Um,
Mm,
and so I think that's something a good reflection for me, right? And I think it's hard when you're raising little people
mhm.
to have as much time with your partner. And so I'm in a season right now of trying to think about how I can better apply my strengths to my partnership and not just to my parenting.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
And that's a huge thing to take on because right now you're in little kid hell. And in little kid hell, it's all hands on deck.
Yes, yes, it is indeed.
And I love the idea, but I would just say I caution your shoulding. You're shoulding again.
I know I'm shitting.
I know it's hard and we do need to prioritize partnership. You're not wrong, but it's also be careful on your shoulding.
Yeah. Thank you. I need
You're
that.
welcome.
Shitting is hard, right?
It
I
is.
hear it. So,
Mhm.
all right. Well, Dr. Dries, thank you again. Our arsonists, thank you for tuning in, listening to the show. We love having you here. We love bringing wonderful guests like Dr. Dries on and sharing these sorts of insights. So, with that, I think we can justifiably say we will talk soon.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on Strengths on Fire. If today's conversation sparked something in you, be sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review. We're here bringing you fresh insights to fuel your growth and ignite your potential. Remember, your strengths are powerful, so let's keep the fire burning.
And if you're looking to transform your organization through strengths-based strategies and coaching, reach out to Sarah Collins, founder of Collins Collective, or Bill Dipple, founder of Bill Dipple Strengths Coaching. Connect with Sarah at wearecollinsco.com, follow her on Instagram at SarahCoachCollins, or email her at sarah@wearecollinsco.com, SARAH. You can reach Bill at BillDipple.com, Bill, DIPPEL.com, or on Instagram at BillDippleCoach, or email him at bill@BillDipple.com.
Please note the opinions, views, and interpretations of Clifton Strengths expressed in this podcast are solely those of the hosts and the guests. They have not been approved, sanctioned, or endorsed by Gallup in any way.
Until next time, keep your strengths on fire and let's light up what's possible together. Bye, Bill.
Bye, Sarah.